My name is Reginald Kearney. I'm a historian. Because I was committed to the election of Barack Obama as President of the United States in 2008, I promised myself that I would go to D.C. for the inauguration if he were to win. He did, and I did. I supported his re-election. This is my appeal to all supporters of the President, all who may be concerned about the legacy that he leaves after 2 terms, and others who believe in a united state and justice for all. With regard to domestic politics, the President has shown vision in his desire to resurrect a semblance of the American dream by supporting a rebirth of a strong middle class. However, in the area of national security, the President has been much less visionary. So far, he has a number of black marks against his record that need to be erased. He promised to close the naval base at Guantanamo, which was used to deny people who ended up there the constitutional protections of American courts. He avoided holding members of his predecessor's administration accountable for clear violations of law. He has avoided rescinding executive overreach of the Bush administration. He has targeted American citizens for assassination, and he has unleashed a reign of death and destruction in violation of the sovereignty of nations with which the United States is not at war. Until the administration of George W. Bush, never before in American history had the Constitution of the United States been so shredded. This document, which those of us who served in the military swore to defend against all enemies, both foreign and domestic, found that 2 of its foremost opponents were a couple of cowboys whose veneration ended at the Second Amendment. George Bush, a man of meager talent but with faith in God, for all intents and purposes, abdicated presidential responsibilities to his vice president in his first administration. His vice president, Dick Cheney, a fellow cowboy, a patriot who conjured up 5 deferments to avoid serving in the military. As a presidential candidate, President Obama seemed to understand that policies of those 2 men were destructive to the image and prestige of the United States abroad and to domestic tranquility at home. However, in his insistence that we look forward and not back, although the political rationale for such a stance was understandable, Obama placed Bush, Cheney, and their minions beyond the law. Under the Bush-Cheney administration, we saw the imposition of methodologies reminiscent of the harshest secret police systems. People were snatched and sent away to be tortured. Telephones were tapped without warrants, and interpretations of law were contorted to cover such abuses. The President mistakenly thought closing Guantanamo would be an easy task, a mere stroke of a pen. His effort to close what had become a national embarrassment, however, was thwarted by Congress's refusal to allot funds and exaggerated fears of how dangerous it would be if an al-Qaeda terrorist were to escape within the boundaries of the United States. In his second term, the political constraints that may have made him reluctant to act boldly and circumvent congressional inertia no longer apply. As Commander-in-Chief, President Obama can order the military to transfer the prisoners that remain in Cuba to a military prison. After that, they may be transferred to a federal supermax prison if these people continue to be considered such formidable threats to the security of the United States of America. Government officials would seem to want us to believe that people alleged to be Al-Qaeda are supervillains, able to leap tall buildings in a single bound, faster than a speeding bullet. Bush and Cheney made public statements acknowledging the sanctioning of enhanced interrogation, a euphemism for what the rest of the world understands to be torture. That's a violation of international law. Yet President Obama has refused to enforce the principle, no one is above the law, and seems to be telling the world that certain Americans are exempt from international law. How others must wonder, a president who sanctions torture, spies on American citizens, and goes to war for no real reason is less accountable than one guilty of a sexual indiscretion. George Bush may have had the most incompetent, deluded administration of modern time. Yet Obama shares his view that a president is empowered to imprison indefinitely citizens and others without charges. Obama may have outdid Bush in his belief that a president can authorize the use of deadly force against citizens of the United States without due process. Indefinite detention and assassination may be lessons learned from the Israelis that would be better forgotten. Indefinite detention, state-sponsored assassination, and use of killer drones may be the three most reprehensible policies of the Obama administration. Other American presidents have had their tragic flaws or black marks upon their records. Kennedy had the Bay of Pigs. Johnson escalated the Vietnam War. Nixon expanded that war to include Cambodia and Laos, and he had Watergate. Ford, the Nixon pardon. Carter, takeover of the embassy in Iran. Reagan, Iran-Contra. And George H.W. Bush exploited the William Horton image in a racist campaign. However, for Obama to assert that a president of the United States can condemn someone to death without any semblance of due process is to claim the power of a god. It is no different than that slave masters once assumed over people that they considered to be chattel property. It is no different than a lynching. In many ways, becoming president of the United States is like being a member of a very exclusive fraternity, so far. But presidents are not gods and are therefore prone to err. From what I've read of Senator Rand Paul, I did not hold him in high regard. However, he filibustered the nomination of John Brennan as director of the Central Intelligence Agency because of his role in directing the drone strike program, a program that kills thousands of non-combatants. Senator Paul is to be commended for his effort. No president should presume the right of extrajudicial execution of U.S. citizens, whether on foreign soil or at home. Perpetrators of the Holocaust had their days in court. Serial murderers, rapists, pedophiles, the vilest of the wicked have a right to due process. As Paul pointed out, the U.S. government seems to be routinely engaging in killing civilians around the world. For the Attorney General to imagine an extraordinary circumstance in which the president could authorize the military to use lethal force within the territory of the United States is incredulous. The use of a drone to kill Anwar al-Awlaki was problematic. Killing his two sons might have been both immoral and illegal. The question Paul raised during his filibuster was most appropriate. If you happen to be the son of a bad person, is that enough to kill you? It is difficult to imagine that a president who could speak so eloquently and be visibly moved at the wanton massacre of 20 Connecticut school children could be the same president who unleashed a reign of destruction that slaughters countless more children in Pakistan, Yemen, Somalia, or anywhere else? Is the grief of a Pakistani parent less poignant than that of an American parent? Drone warfare may bring very little political risk at home, but it potentially generates more anti-American hatred and inducts many recruits into the anti-American movement. Using computer game warriors is no way to win friends, but will influence generations. Now the Pentagon has come up with a medal for joystick warriors, but after the blood and tears, there will be no boots on the ground, no one to hand out chocolate and chewing gum. Supporters of the president must become engaged and involved. They must do all that they can to persuade him to reverse course and erase the black marks from his record. Encourage him to disavow the notion that a president has authority to order a citizen of the United States killed extrajudicially. Disarm the drones. Initiate investigations in the conduct of certain officials of the Bush administration, including Bush and Cheney themselves. Jettison Bush-era policies that encroach upon the civil rights of citizens, and close Guantanamo, a continued embarrassment. From letters to the White House to organized protests, we should do all that we can to ensure the Obama record is not as bad or worse than that of his predecessor in the areas of civil rights and national security. Thank you for watching.